With Mr. Swainson. I think many of you know he was appointed by Governor Blanchard this year as a special committee to deal with Michigan's 150th birthday. So we'll start with that, John.
Well, thank you, Doug. That's not quite accurate, but I'll accept that. I wish you had appointed me to do all that. I was one of 32 members of a commission, and by reason of having been the 40th governor of the state of Michigan, I became an honorary co-chairperson of the Sesquicentennial Commission. And we have on the wall two of the most current posters. As you all know, I hope by this time, that the logo, the 150, is the logo for the Sesquicentennial, celebrating our 150th year of statehood. We became a state in 1837. Of course, Bridgewater had already organized as a township by then. They organized in 1832, so we came along a little later to become a state. The poster on the right is the picture of the flag of the United States at the time of our statehood. That is a 26-star flag. We were the 26th state in the Union. We were admitted on January 26, 1837. And when we began our celebration of our Sesquicentennial, at least all of you should be able to pronounce Sesquicentennial by this time, we searched high and low in the state of Michigan for a flag. And lo and behold, we found one. We found it, as a matter of fact, over in East Lansing. The person that had it up in its attic for all of those years. Now, just to show you how things have changed in that short span of 150 years, to get it restored today, and it has been restored, it is on display in the state capitol building, it cost $3,000. All those threads were very dry, but we did get it restored. Now, the reason we're doing all this is to instill in our citizens the pride in our state that many of us have felt. I have spent the better part of this past year speaking about events that happened back there in 1837, how we became a state, why we didn't become a state before 1837. Basically, we got in a big argument with the President of the United States, as a matter of fact, Andrew Jackson. And one thing that is as true today as it was then, you don't win arguments with the President of the United States, especially when you're a territory, not even a state, and you don't have a representative in Congress. All you have is a non-voting delegate. And of course, our state just to the south of us, Ohio, became a state in 1803. They had a voting representative. Indiana became a state in 1860. They had a voting representative, as did Illinois, who became a state in 1817. And the big argument was, where's the southern boundary of Michigan? They had the votes. We had a non-voting delegate. Thank goodness for Bo Schembechler. We've taken care of him ever since. But we didn't have him back then, you see, to take care of him. But we finally acceded to the demand of not only those persons, but the President, that we accept in exchange for the so-called Toledo Strip. That was a little narrow piece of property. Well, a little more than a piece of property. It was 586 square miles. Because the ordinance of 1787 said the southern boundary would commence at the southernmost loop of Lake Michigan and thence run due east. And had that been followed, we would have had Maumee Bay as part of the state of Michigan. Well, that was very important at that time, you know, because most of the people that traveled long distances traveled by water. And that was a good bay for shipping, freight, all kinds of things. We wanted that very badly. And whoever heard of the Upper Peninsula? You know, most of the people didn't even know where it was, let alone have the chance to get up there. Of course, a short 10 years later, not even 10 years, in 1844, they discovered iron ore in the Upper Peninsula, and the riches that we have gain from the iron ore in the Upper Peninsula far exceeds the value of Toledo. Whoever wants to go to Toledo anyway? So we lost it. Oh, here's one, Toledo. Back it was called Toledo, Michigan at one time. We found a box. In fact, a man came up just this year. He was at a yard sale, and he found an ammunition box that said Toledo, Michigan on it. He paid $7.50 for it, and he gave it to our museum. So we were delighted with that. I also have in my hand right now is our latest edition of Michigan History. Probably Doug didn't tell you because we didn't tell him, but I'm the president of the Michigan Historical Commission at this time in Lansing. And this is the magazine that we put out 6 times a year, Michigan History. And in this magazine, we have a picture of a lady who I understand is here tonight, Sarah C. Halliday, right?
Right.
And it's talking about one of her quilts. We have a whole section on quilts this year. Now, another lady came up and said, can you see that she could get a copy of this? And I said, well, here, it only costs $9.95 for a subscription for a year. Well, she said, free. Well, I said, you come from Bridgewater Township, and they never give anything away free, do they? The township, they haven't since 1832. But I have a couple of copies at home, and I'm sure I'll get 1 or 2 of those copies to you so that you have them. But the rest of you, why don't you give yourself a Christmas present, your children a Christmas present, order our magazine, Michigan History, the best $10 you've ever spent, believe me. And all you do is write to Lansing, Michigan Historical Commission, $10, and you've got this coming to your house. Well, I'm not the speaker tonight, although I have never had an audience like this before in Bridgewater Township. I feel like this. When do you run again, Doug?
John, I was thinking if we had this kind of attendance at our regular meetings, Karen and I couldn't get away with anything.
You know, I think we all forget how tough it was to travel back in 1837. I drove over here tonight in, I think, less 5 minutes. Back in those days, if I had taken a team of horses, or oxen probably would have been more of the way of traveling, it had taken me the better part of an hour. I don't think I lived 4 miles from here. How far we've come in 150 years. Before the township of Bridgewater, because we only have one of those flags, we talked the Michigan Telephone Company into making a number of these flags with 26 stars on them. And Doug, I'd like to present this to Bridgewater Township in memory of the early days of statehood in Michigan, a 26-star flag.
It'll be a nice addition. Thank you.